Help support the show by joining the Patreon or becoming a YouTube member. Also, hit that like button and subscribe if you want more Browns-focused content.
All right, so things have started to slow down a bit in the free agency frenzy. The Browns haven't really made a big move since the signing of Elton Jenkins, right? Like after that, the Browns have kind of slowed down. It looks like they're happy with the work that they've done on the offensive line. It is interesting. We still haven't gotten like the run of introductory press conferences. I assume that's going to happen next week, but that's usually when you know that they feel reasonably confident that they made all of the big moves that they can make. They'll make some smaller moves here and there, but once they start running the press conferences, doing the big introductory things, that's basically them signaling we're about to wrap up here, right? As far as any kind of big name acquisition goes. So that's where we are in free agency. We're starting to wind down. The Browns have made some smaller moves around the edges, some moves that are probably going to affect special teams more than anything. They brought back Corey Bojorquez, which I think is the biggest move that they did. This was a little bit of a surprise to me. I didn't think Corey Bojorquez had a strong year, but they must have looked around at their options and not liked what they saw. Corey did have the reputation of being one of the better punters in the NFL, but I thought this year he kind of let that reputation down. A lot of situations where he got touchbacks where he shouldn't have got touchbacks. The short area punting for him just wasn't where you wanted it to be this year. They were one of the worst short area punt teams in the NFL in getting their expected expected field position. That being said, Corey still has a boot. He could flip fields, and he's certainly capable of that. The Browns also re-signed Trey Avery, who was a corner who appeared in about 10 games last year. So nothing huge on the news front there. If we're looking for things that are off the rumor mill, it looks like James Gladstone, the general manager of the Jacksonville Jaguars, has officially killed any rumors of Brian Thomas Jr. being traded anytime soon. He said, and I quote, the rumors of Brian Thomas Jr. being shopped were absolutely fraudulent. The Jags never got an offer from any team for Thomas, and Thomas remains a big part of the offense going forward. So look, there's not going to be a lot of smoke out there about a player being traded if they're not talking to teams. So I'm pretty sure that the Jaguars are lying about that. I think that they tried to go and look for a trade for Brian Thomas Jr. They weren't happy with what they were hearing back. So they decided we're just going to keep him. And then once you decide you're going to keep him, you got to act like you were never going to trade him in the first place, right? So that's kind of just a general GM move right there, is to act like, oh, it's ridiculous. We would have never considered trading this player that they most definitely considered trading, because why would everybody hear noise multiple times about it if you aren't calling around and asking teams for it? Like, people aren't bored during free agency, the people who would be working for teams at this point, so they're not just doing stuff for the fuck of it. But now that we're at that point, you got to ask the question, is this it for the Cleveland Browns when it comes to free agency? I think when it comes to them signing like outright free agent deals, yeah, this is about it. Right? Like, I think they're done after this. I don't think there's much more they're going to do there. I do think that it's possible that they make some trades, maybe some smaller deals, right? Like, for example, this is not something anybody's married to, but let's say Justin Fields gets cut from the Jets, which is very possible. The Browns could sign him to a cheap deal or something like that, right? But it would be along those lines. They might even make a trade for wide receiver probably wide receiver more than likely, or something at quarterback, like a pick swap in Anthony Richardson. But I think for the big moves, as far as like money goes, the guys who are going to make a bunch of money, if there's one left, it's a trade, but I don't think it's going to happen in free agents. So I don't think we're going to go after Rasheed Walker. I don't think we're going to go after anybody who's going to require more than like the vet men or more than like $6 million a year, right? Like, I think it's going to be all under the radar type stuff from here on out when it comes to free agency. Now, owners meetings are coming up, and that's where a lot of frameworks for trades get worked out. That's where the Browns worked out their framework for the trade back last year. So draft trades, regular trades, a lot of that's going to be up for conversation during the owners meeting. And I expect ground to be made there. Again, if the Browns do make a big move, it'll probably be wide receiver. Because that's where they have the one big move left to go. Even if they trade for a quarterback, it'll be a big name because like quarterbacks are well known, but it's not going to be a big time move, right? It's not even guaranteed that the quarterback they bring in will start, right? So there's probably one big move. That big move is wide receiver. Everything else is more for guys who might be in rotation or might be in competition. But that's kind of where I think the free agency ball is landing. But there is something else I wanted to talk about. That all said, Brian Thomas Jr. off the board, Corey Bojorquez re-signed. Not a lot of major news, but there was a interview that I thought was interesting from Ty Simpson, talking about the possibility of him and Carnell Tate ending up in Cleveland.
I want to see you and Carnell together. I didn't know you guys were quite as, obviously, I know you're close, but like you keep bringing him up. So it's like.
Because he follows me everywhere. Like,
yeah,
if he on the show asking why he follows me everywhere. Everywhere I go, he goes.
Is there a world where y'all are on the Browns together? I feel like could that happen? What would that be like?
That's something that you got to ask Coach Monk and Mr. Berry. I think it'd be great. I mean, they got it going up there. Coach Monk's going to get it right. They got all the right pieces. If I'm able to throw the Carnell, it'd be great. It would be something that, we'd always be on the same page and, hopefully we'd take the league by storm.
You like Mr. Monken?
Oh yeah, he's the man.
What do you
Coach
like about
Monken,
him?
Well, first off, right, he recruited me at Georgia. So, had a great relationship with him. And then, him coaching at Southern Miss, him and my dad, got to, know each other pretty well. So I've known him for a long time. And then, when I got to meet with them at the Combine and, got to meet with them on a 30 visit, it was, just something, there's a, personality about him that, he kind of has that chip on his shoulder to where, he wants to, take the league by storm with his offense. And, he's very genuine and, cares about his players and cares about his coaches. And, the proof is in the pudding when it comes to, offense, right? Like you saw what he did with, at Georgia, saw what he did with Lamar. Like, it just kind of, I think it's a quarterback friendly system and a guy who is willing to, change and adapt.
Now, we've talked about a lot of different angles for how the Browns could solve their quarterback problem. And I've primarily focused on cheap, low cost, low resource options. I don't think the Browns are really super interested in drafting anybody in like day 2 or 3 of the draft, or especially day 3 of the draft. So I haven't really entertained much about that as far as the Browns go. The reason, and I've been more focused on that than like Ty Simpson, is I just think that's more realistic. I don't know if the Browns are interested in Ty Simpson. There are some connections there, right? Ty has worked with Todd before. They both think highly. Well, he at least thinks highly of Todd. I don't know what Todd thinks of Ty Simpson. There's really not much to go off of when you look at what it is that Todd Monken is going to want from quarterback, because he's coached so many different variations of his offense over the years, right? So we're kind of locked in to the idea of him wanting a quarterback like he described, but that was also while he was working at Baltimore and he had Lamar Jackson. It's possible that when he doesn't have Lamar Jackson, maybe his solutions for the quarterback positions might look differently than they were when he was talking about what he does with Lamar Jackson. Like, it's entirely possible that that could be the case. It's also entirely possible that what he described is absolutely the mold of what they're looking for at quarterback. So I wouldn't rule out Ty Simpson just because he doesn't fit the mold of the quarterback that he described in that coach's camp, in that Harbaugh camp, because there's a lot of different pieces of context that can completely change what it is that he was actually signaling to intend there. So, you know, it is interesting to think. I'm not the biggest fan of drafting Ty Simpson there. There are a couple of reasons. One, I think if your team and you want to draft a quarterback in the first round, I think you should be sold on him. I don't think you should just be doing this just to do it. I think you should do it because you truly believe that there is a vision for this guy to be a good enough quarterback to win a championship with. And when I watch Ty Simpson, I think there could be a starting quarterback there. I think that there can be a really good backup there. I don't see good enough to win a championship with, me personally. I think there are some limitations as far as his physicality goes. And when I say that, I'm talking about his physical build, right? He's not the biggest guy in the world. He did come into the combine at a better weight, but he had a hard time staying durable in the SEC. He'll be coming to the AFC North, which is infinitely more difficult to stay durable in. And when he took those hits, it really built up on him over the course of the year and kind of ate up his margin of error at the position. Also, you know, he's not the best with pressure, right? Like, the Browns have done a lot to fix the offensive line, but I would anticipate that there's going to be a fair bit of pressure. And honestly, like, there is that like whole Dylan Gabriel effect thing that I'm worried about here, where we saw how Dylan Gabriel's rookie year went and just how poorly Dylan was received because he was put in juxtaposition of a bigger story in Shedeur Sanders. Now, if the Browns draft Ty Simpson in the first round, it's obvious who's going to be the focus of the team going forward. Like, do you want to introduce that while you still while people still don't feel like they've gotten the fair shake for Shedeur? Maybe that's something you consider. Maybe it's something you just completely ignore and you say F it to, and you just go ahead and take him. I'm not the most sold that that's the right way to go for this football team. I think if you're the Browns, you just keep your quarterback options for this year cheap, low investment. Unless you truly, like, if they sit there and they say to themselves, we think Ty Simpson can be a good enough quarterback to win a championship with, and we want to invest in him as a franchise, go ahead and take Ty Simpson with the 24th pick or whatever you want to do there. But if that's not how you feel about him, then I'd rather you avoid that in the first round. And then we'll see what happens after that. That all being said, the other quarterback option that some people were talking about was Kyler Murray. Now, I always thought the hurdle to get Kyler Murray for Cleveland was Minnesota, right? If you could get Minnesota off of the top of his list, I think you could have made an argument for Cleveland to be in the running for him. But that is no longer an option. Kyler Murray has signed with the Minnesota Vikings as of recording this video. Now, what's the Browns quarterback situation going to look like going forward? I actually have some stuff that I recorded I'm going to release later this week and early next week that I recorded with Tyvis Powell. I thought it was interesting because Tyvis thinks differently about this quarterback room and some of the players in this quarterback room than I do. So I thought it was an interesting conversation, you know, talking about where we differ, why we differ, what our philosophies are on this. But that's going to be something in line for next week. So make sure you're subscribed. But as we round the end of this week of free agency, this is where we are. This is what the Browns have done. What do you think of it so far? Do you like what they've done? Do you not like what they've done? Are you holding out, hoping they get a wide receiver here? Or are you okay if this is if they just wrap it up right now? Are you okay with this? Do you want a quarterback? What quarterback do you want? Let me know in the comment section down below. Y'all have a great day. Have an even better night. Peace.